got a routine out there.
Well, they must set the turtle.
Seems enough.
So I told her, give me a hard time. I said, no, we got to talk, they do that. I just had your. I would say.
Fighting words.
Uncle Ken's still hanging on.
Yeah, we were all, I didn't see him, but I was talking to them, we were talking to Gretchen, and we were all at the house. Said he was hanging in there. Yeah. That's what we can do.
No, we should go around the ground and see if I can get the his birthday on it, maybe we'll call it.
Okay. I didn't know, his birthday.
Before April, I think it was, we're very far apart.
Oh,
Hey, we kind of recognize you.
yeah.
How are you?
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
exactly, it's too bad. It's part of the deal.
How's your mom doing?
She's doing.
Yeah, I never see her very much, except for in the car. But, I give Denny a ride home, you know,
Yeah,
on
that's
Tuesdays.
nice of you.
Yeah, and so, like, I wonder how she's doing with her, you know. I'm sure she has to take care of him a little bit.
You're supposed to bring donuts and
He
cake.
has a hard time walking.
Well, you know, and she's a speed away for her cousin, and he passed away too, but that was she was falling.
Oh.
And then fingers and to my breathing, and then we got brain bleed and infection. So now she's playing. She's tired.
Oh, that's poor.
Yeah.
Tell her to slow down.
I know.
Yeah.
She has gotten off a lot of things, so other than we make her come driving and she goes like that too, you know, 'cause we have to
Yeah. I don't know.
get her away, but
Yeah.
she worries about Danny when she's gone.
We knew she was gone, so we kinda checked on her.
Yeah, and then Molly was here on the weekends taking care of her with ALS, so then she goes and she takes them over here. And so she's like, you want interventions? I don't know there yet. So she's driving there. But yeah, it's nice to see her.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Chuck, give me a shot next week.
Okay. Sounds good.
It is 3:01. Call the meeting to order. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes? March 7th, March 14th, personnel committee meetings. Motion's been made by Jonathan Undershoots, second by Jim Meyer to approve the minutes. Is there any corrections or changes in the minutes as presented? None get heard. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public comment. Anybody wanna speak in public comment? Nobody for public comment? Okay. Recovery court. Consider filling recovery court coordinator position. It was, went through justice and youth yesterday. And it was also set back in December.
Okay, so back in October, the board approved hiring of a drug court coordinator. And then after that, I believe we met as a quarterly team, went through the job description because some updates were needed to it. It was brought back to the board twice. The first time the chair postponed action on it, and the second time it died for lack of a motion to approve the amended job description for the drug court coordinator. It was also a title change to recovery court coordinator. So then nothing really happened after that, and then it's been brought back to youth extension several times to maybe get an interim in there, and then finally just, last night they decided to just go ahead and post for the job with the prior drug court coordinator job description.
With the name change, am I correct?
Yeah.
So I guess, is there any questions?
Yeah, well,
oversight on this position?
That is now under the HHS director.
But is the oversight committee still justice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, that you guys are the oversight for the drug court.
And we did accept the grant?
Further questions? Not in the motion to approve. Motion's been made by John Keel to approve, is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Stout. Is there any further discussion or questions on the motion on the floor? None being heard, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Letter of support from the new assistant DA. Is that in?
Last page. I
Last-
saw
last-
second to last on the back. On the back, about the second.
We did something different.
Right here.
Oh, here it is. Clear up front. No,
There's no, yeah, there's no, I was
No.
gonna say, what motions are the
just it's there, everybody can read it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just for clarification on the previous action, the posting now is clear to go. There's no other place that has to go for the recovery coordinator position, correct?
Correct.
It now can just be posted and follow the procedure, general procedure for hiring.
Correct.
Awesome, thank you.
There's nothing I remember as far as county board putting a hold on this filling of this position, was there?
No, just that, they put the hold on changing and, approving the different job description, so this will get posted on the old job description.
That's what I remember.
Any questions on what you just read, or comments?
No, it sounds like we're kinda in limbo until the, digging around the, putting a, district attorney, full one, we have the assistant, but. So like you say, this
Who knows?
could, the district attorney's thoughts could change, but I kind of doubt it.
Where did we start?
What's that?
Put somebody in the place.
You got nobody, it's governor appointed at this point. You can, until the election in November, but evidently there's nobody interested or whatever, because otherwise I think somebody would have been appointed by now. Ashley Goods.
Thank you. That scared everybody. You're still my favorite person on the committee in Rusk. Good job, thank you.
For the moment.
And that have a nice day. Judge, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Judge, have a nice day. Aaron, have a good day.
The first thing is, approving compensation for the acting highway commissioner, so the highway committee approved approval of compensation for, the acting highway commissioner while the commissioner was out on leave. So the request is to pay the acting highway commissioner at the 31/11 during that time frame, which was 2/26 to 3/10, so approximately 2 weeks. This was the wage that he was receiving as the acting operations manager, so that 31/11 is what we're essentially requesting to extend out 2 more weeks, because the day that the highway commissioner went out on leave was the day that our brand new operations manager started, so we didn't wanna put the operations manager into the acting highway commissioner on his first day. So, they are wondering, and the highway committee did approve that, to have that essentially extend for 2 more weeks while he was the acting highway commissioner. Wage was
Roughly, what,
$31.11.
$6 an hour?
Yeah, I
What
think
you're
he's
saying?
at, yeah, I think he's at 24.
6 to 7. I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made by Jim Meyer, second by Bob Stout, to approve. Any further questions or comments on the motion on the floor? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It is approved.
Then we'll just forward that on to finance. Okay, the second thing is coming back from last month's meeting, the maintenance and extension support position. So I did have time to discuss that removal of the recycling position and appointing it to the forestry department. So did have time to talk about that. So the forestry department does not feel that it would be appropriate to move that recycling position into the forestry department, does not feel that they would have the correct amount of time to do that. So they have had an increase in their timber sales and their campground sales by about 50% this last year. And, the position that could potentially take on the recycling position that we had talked about, does not feel that there would be time to take on this recycling position.
Let's grant, do more of a grant rating. And then the one clean sweep.
So it's about with the percentage, 10% of recycling is what is put into that extension position right now. So 10% is put into that position right now, which would be about 3.88 hours per week is what it
Thank
comes
you.
down to. The duties and responsibilities of the recycling position are, public education, training, enforcement, program administration, and collections is kind of what was in the job description for that. So training, recycling, site attendance, investigating complaints in accordance with compliance plans, completing the annual grant application and annual reporting. I think that's a big part of it, is that annual grant and that annual report. And then organizing and staffing, different collections with that clean sweep. And then the public education, so taking the phone calls on what is recyclable, what is composting, electronic, pharmaceuticals, all of that. Supposed to, I think, give some presentation to schools, organizations, that sort of stuff, but I don't know how much of that is being done currently, but,
I don't think very much. Time factor is not there.
yeah. And I think the thought is, if we move that to forestry, we might just be moving the problem. And then overloading that department.
Well, I thought timber sales, last I heard timber sales were down and forestry was slower. Now I'm hearing a different story. Because they couldn't move some of the timber and stuff. Maybe
Well, the
Is that
what
the sales are still here, they're slated for X number of acreage per year, for that 15-year plan. I would lean more toward the campgrounds, I mean, that's all electronic now. The big majority of it is done online.
Yeah, they've seen a 50% increase in that, so,
in what?
in the campground.
50%?
That's what I've been told,
Since we don't have a date when?
over the
I
last
know,
couple
but,
of years.
It went up huge during COVID.
we don't know that it's dropped.
But they put all the booking online, was my understanding, to alleviate a lot of that problem,
Right, but it hasn't decreased any.
which is good.
I mean, they put all that time and effort in there to actually expand it, I don't want to get much work up there, and people are just booking.
But they're booking online,
Correct.
so how much time does that take from?
Really not much, I would think.
It's a good thing that people are, have it right now, you're not. Yeah, oh, definitely. Definitely.
Has forestry discussed this at all before it came here?
No,
No, yeah, no, never.
we don't.
named on it.
So unless you. Let's take it there.
Well, I hate to bounce it around, but,
I don't know where else it's going.
sure it's in here. Did you have, as long as we're discussing this, I might get a little off track and maybe the chairman will yell at me, I don't know, but that's all right. There was some other things we discussed when it came to your job of possibly moving around. Did you gain any ground on any of those? I don't remember what they were now. There was this we talked about, seeing if
Yep.
it could be shuffled to another department. What was the other
Your
one?
first thought was to move Trails End Camp into forestry. Then I explained it's a licensed red gag camp, it's not a county park. Then you wanted to put IT bills in there, but then we decided IT would do their own bills. And then this was your third thing you talked about, was putting recycling into forestry.
Do you have another idea?
I think it would fit more with either land and water or zoning. There is enforcement part of this job that I never have time to do it, so I don't. But DNR is all about educational enforcement. And education is a big part, but that's something, I used to go into schools and do that, I don't anymore. But I believe one of the employees down there is supposed to be doing more education. It just seems like a better fit, because of, you're dealing with DNR in both of those situations. Whereas forestry, not so much, I don't
Do
think.
you know roughly what you receive in grant money for this?
$82,022.
So then that would be transferred to?
Yeah, they would get the
also.
entire budget, yes.
I like
Was
that,
Yeah, I never.
I like that, Sean. That
Well, they might not
make-
like it, but,
well, they
it just
might
makes more
not, but
sense.
That's where the youth programs are being based out of for different things. That's a really good point, if Nick is on board with it.
Speaking of his ass, I think that's time to put an agenda on this next Tuesday.
Is it?
Plan of water, yeah, for that.
Anybody else have any other better ideas?
No, but I do like that one.
You work with the youth with the shooting contests.
My recommendation is we put that on the land and water agenda for next Tuesday and have a discussion with them as to, should we make that fit there?
Moving it.
Yes, I'll make that the motion if you'd like me to. Do we have a discussion with land and water and see if that will fit into their department?
Motion on the floor, is there a second? Further questions or comments on the motion that's on the floor? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Change to discipline.
So bringing this back, last month we had discussed the change to the discipline and termination process. It was discussed to put in, a contingency plan. So just, you guys should have this in your packets. So just a little refresh, what I did with that chapter 7, section 3 of the proposed change to the personnel handbook for the progressive and corrective discipline levels is, I had discussed last time that we have 5 levels of discipline right now. Level 1 and level 2 are very similar, especially now with having an HR department. Level one was kind of an informal meeting between the employee and the supervisor, but they were still wanting to document that, giving a copy to the employee. Essentially, it was almost the same thing as their verbal warning. The only difference was the verbal warning was also in consultation with the HR manager. Most people are having that talk with me first anyways, so eliminating that first level one and just going to your basic 4 levels is all this changes. So level 1 would be your verbal, level 2 is your written, level 3 suspension, and then level 4 termination would be what that would be. And then just a couple little changes within those ones, but nothing that changes the integrity of what the levels mean. So the big one is level 4 for termination. So the department had a human resource manager and administrative coordinator will determine if the termination of employment is necessary for all staff with the exception of appointed officials as described in Rusk County Ordinance Section 2-119. So that's what we're proposing as the change, is having that happen. Recommendations for discipline or termination of those appointed officials, so it's the department heads, and then I think like the public health nurse and
Veteran service officer.
yeah, and there are a couple other positions that are under that, would still be referred to the personnel committee through the human resources manager for disposition. The contingency plan, so what I added to this, I have 2 different options in there for the contingency plan. Option 1 would be if there's a vacancy of a department head, HR manager, or the AC, and an interim has not been named, the recommendation for discipline or termination shall be referred to the personnel committee. So essentially saying, one of those 3 key players, are not available and an interim has not been made, it would revert back to the process that we're currently doing now, where it would have to go through the personnel committee. That's one option that we could consider for a contingency plan. Another option to consider for a contingency plan would be if there is a vacancy for one of those 3 positions and an interim has not been named, the personnel committee shall appoint another department head, manager, or supervisor to be involved in the termination decision. So essentially, if we haven't named one of those 3 people, we would come to the personnel committee. The personnel committee would appoint somebody to be that 3rd person to be involved in the disciplinary termination process. In the event that the personnel committee feels that they couldn't name that 3rd individual, the recommendation for discipline or termination shall be referred to the personnel committee. Option 2 would be the one that I would prefer with the contingency plan, because I feel it outlines a number of choices, but I did want to throw in that other option as well. So that was what I had come up with for a contingency.
Is that pretty much the way they do it in other counties?
Yeah, I have been talking to a lot of other counties, and that's very common for more of those non-managerial, though more of those frontline staff. Yes, yeah.
Anybody else, any comments or questions?
I don't like it at all, but sometimes it's good to have people that is committee, or also you guys are here a lot, but some of us too. Sometimes it's good to have people that are maybe more neutral because they're outsiders that can kind of step back and see what's going on, like bring the personal versus the people that day-to-day have to do people. So sometimes it's good to have an outside perspective and something that's not always.
I can see that point, but I think it poses more problems down the road. The way it is now versus the way Ashley's outlining it here.
I'm reading some of this. So the first paragraph would, under termination, that one is your recommendation.
Yep,
Then
so
it's
that's,
option 1 or option 2.
yep, and because last month we had done this without those options in there, so what I would like to see is option 2 in there. So it's not that we would do option 1 or option 2, only one of those options would be in the policy. I just wanted to be able to discuss 2 different options with you guys on how that contingency plan could work if one of us isn't available. So yeah, the first part of that termination is what was added.
So either way, it's gonna come to the personnel committee.
No.
Hmm?
No.
No.
Only if one of us only if the department head is absent, like the position is vacant, the HR position is vacant, or the administrative coordinator position is vacant. Because what we don't want to happen is if one of those positions is vacant, we don't want to move on with this process with just 2 people. So if there's not an interim that has been named to cover that position, the recommendation would be to come to the personnel committee for you guys to name a 3rd person to be involved in that process. So you have, again, 3 people. And if you can't name a 3rd person, then it would go to the personnel committee. But the personnel committee, the ultimate goal would be to reserve the personnel committee for the true grievance process and procedure.
Cause right now, there's something, didn't we put something in place, you remember Jonathan, where if it's an emergency type situation, then the personnel committee chair
Approve, paid leave.
Yeah.
paid leave, that's what we ended up with, right?
It was, I forget what the wording was, more or less it was heinous.
Egregious.
Yeah.
I'd also respectfully argue that a big part of my job description is to, as an HR professional, is to be that person that is not biased towards one person or the other. That is one of the main job responsibilities of any HR professional, is to act that way, which is also why we had 3 people involved, so an odd number. You have the manager who might be, yes, right in the thick of it, they're gonna feel one way or the other about their employee. They're most likely, they're the ones dealing with the day-to-day, but it is my job as an HR professional to look at both sides of that and to treat, do that full investigation, and that is, right in that job description as well.
I would have to agree. When we bring terminations to the personnel committee, we have to do them per state statute, which invokes a hearing. And I have been through several of them, and I find that to be archaic. Having one in particular was very difficult on the employee, and it was also difficult on the supervisor. And having, 10 people witness that is, I think we can do better. So that would eliminate the need for that. And then, as Ashley said as well, if, employees have a right to a statutory grievance process. So if someone were to file a grievance to fight any discipline or termination that me, the HR manager, and the department had imposed on that employee, you guys truly would be 100% unbiased. It would be the first time you were hearing any of this stuff. You would have had no say in the termination or the discipline. So, we would present our case, the employee would present their case, and you guys would be a true, kind of judge and jury from that standpoint.
Any questions or comments?
Sounds too bad.
It is.
Then you're also asking another department head or supervisor to be involved in something that, with option two, that maybe they don't want to be involved.
Yeah, but if there isn't one, then it reverts back to the personnel committee.
I have the right to decline.
What I was really thinking, where it might come into play when you would,
You don't have to go to the meeting right now.
what I would say with, where I was thinking is that, with that, is like our HHS department, how they have all those different, like those 7 department heads. So say like the department head of HHS was gone and you could appoint like one of those department heads, cause that's still like the managerial, so I don't know necessarily that you would always appoint, you know, like somebody else from a totally different department. I think that's when you might revert to, okay, we have to go to the personnel committee if we don't have that interim department head or HR person named.
Or like for instance, you know, highway has the commissioner and the ops manager, the sheriff's office has the sheriff and the chief deputy, forestry, forester, assistant forest administrator. So in most of our departments, you know, finance director, assistant finance director, we could have that kind of alternate managerial level person. And I do believe now that we have HR here, we will not go without an interim in such a large position ever again.
What do you think, Terry?
I see merits on both sides. To be honest with you, I think it leans sort of going this direction. I think it's easier on the employee, I think it's easier on the staff. But I agree with Ashley Goodis that if it comes to the point that it comes to the personnel committee, there's 100% unbiased there. I mean, it's, you don't know about it, all you see is the facts presented. I think that's a lot more fair way to.
And the grievance process would still be the personnel committee, you're saying?
Yes.
I mean, someone can still file a grievance, right? I mean,
Yeah, none of that's being taken away.
so if someone doesn't like how their case was handled, they could still be brought here, you opposed to that?
That's a statutory thing, Jim.
That won't change, we still have right to.
Yes.
So what would you, what's your definite thoughts on this?
I think determination should go to the personnel committee. Or, and then they can have a second committee of people who do grievance. And they don't have to come to grievance if they don't want to get in front of 10 people, if they don't, just, like, that also had, they know it's signed up, they don't have to show up.
You don't think after being through a few of these, that kind of really drags this process out at times? I'm just waiting, I'm on the fence right now, so that's where I'm at with this, it seems like it really
I
drags it out.
want to give every chance to advocate for myself.
But now in the real
Which I don't
world,
think you're taking none of that away, though, John.
in the real world, where you and I work, okay, different than municipality.
Yeah.
We get called out on the carpet and we're told that we're not doing this or doing that, and we're fired. We're fired.
Yeah.
Why should we make this any more, and I'm not arguing, just discussing. Are we doing the county any justice by making this a longer process other than a grievance process? You know, a grievance committee type thing.
I think it would be more fair to employee to make it a longer process than just a grievance process.
Depends on the infraction, what happened, sometimes you have work kind of speedy.
Well, then you end up calling special meetings. And if an employee's definitely in, where they're definitely in the wrong, then we end up, a lot of times putting them on paid leave, which costs the county more money on top of it, along with the special meetings and everything else.
It's less politics in the role.
Well, Act 10 brought that up. Act 10 had, so.
don't like that some of these get drug out is where I'm coming from, I guess. There's things I don't like about this, but there's also things I don't like about the process where someone is gonna be terminated and then it turns into a law. Yeah, because that could have been decided in one meeting in private and done.
What I do like about this, I think, is you're not lining up committee members to call a special meeting. These people that are being discussed here are here for work every day. So it's, it's advantageous financially wise to the company.
Obviously, something happened, it would be the meeting already, would be in the situation to start with.
Well,
So it would be the HR's job to make sure that we are investigating that and getting, you know, anytime I've done a termination in the past, we've definitely looked at all sides of the story, including talking to the employee too, so giving the employee their fair chance of that too. I think, I understand why this is definitely put in place, especially without an HR professional. Since I've been here, the problem that I also see is not only the time that it takes as well is, the managers know that ultimately anything has to go through the personnel committee right now to be termed. Technically, the way this should also happen is that personnel committee should not be hearing about any of these terminations or any of these issues with these employees until I were to come and present that case, or the manager comes and presents that case at the personnel meeting. And what's happening is these managers know that, hey, it is the personnel committee that's gonna make the decision. So in some ways, I feel like they're biased on the other end because they are talking to some of these committee members, and it's all their side of the story, and you're still only hearing that one side of the story and not aware of the whole investigation and the whole other part of the story. So we're involving a lot more people than is really necessary as well.
I also get the feeling that, I don't know how I wanna word this, but we're chaining our HR manager down and not letting that individual do their job. The way this is set now.
I'd add to that and say you're also chaining your department heads down.
Yeah, I can see that point too.
The other thing I don't like about this, you go 9 months without an HR manager or something like we did, or whatever the time frame was. I don't know if I like the backup plan where, let's just say we're without HR, hopefully we are, but whatever reason that may be, I mean, person could have personal issues or something too. To have that key person be missing from this decision-making process, I think then it's automatically coming back to the personnel. I don't think you have much of a choice. That would concern me. To just replace our HR manager with another department head, I don't know if I like that part. I mean, because let's say Ashley's still here, whatever, the department head's here, but then I feel like maybe the county's a little bit limbo there. That's what I'm done.
But I think that's where that contingency does cover that, because in that case, you guys would not name an appropriate individual to
Right.
do that, so then it would go, the
It's still
recommendation for that discipline or termination would be referred to the personnel committee, meaning that we would go back through the hearing, and, because if it goes in front of the personnel committee at all, we are statutorily required to have that hearing.
Actually, Jim, she's right, what you just stated is actually in there.
Yeah.
Because if that person is gone, any one of the three are gone, it comes to the personnel committee to decide whether there's an appropriate alternate for that position, or it comes to the personnel committee.
Like at the department head, you could decide like, yep, the assistant director, or like one of those supervisors can be in, but say it's the HR manager missing or the administrative coordinator missing, you could determine, no, we don't have somebody appropriate that we wanna name as that third person, so it's coming they would have to come to the personnel committee.
I think that, yeah, that is spelled out.
Well, if you don't have one, you're gonna have to call a special personnel committee to appoint one. I think that's something that needs to be done from time to time.
Actually, yes.
But I couldn't think of a better contingency plan, because I agree with you, Jim, in that aspect that I don't know who else I wouldn't be comfortable appointing just a certain department head or a name of a department in there. I think that's the only fair way to do it, is to have the personnel committee decide that.
Which should be very rare. I mean, in all honesty, hopefully, would be a rare, very rare instance where personnel committee has to be called together to appoint an individual. Or even look at appointing an individual.
Yes.
Any other questions?
This is still gonna have to move forward, correct?
Ashley?
Well, there's no fiscal impact to this policy, however, it is changing something quite significant, so yes, I think it should go to the board.
I would agree.
That would be my thought.
I make a motion to go back to the board.
Motion on the floor, with which option? With option two? Got a motion on the floor to move this to the full board with option two in place. Is there a second? Yes? Yes. Motion is seconded. Mr. Caleb, is there any other questions or comments? None being heard? Mr. Stone? Yes. Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Undershaw? No. Mr. Caleb? Yes. And yes. Motion does pass.
With the understanding this is going to county.
Great. Great. It could, the county board can still shut it down.
Right.
Great. Yeah.
I agree. It's a major change.
Yeah.
Okay, my last thing, the work from home policy, I have been doing a lot of research on this, and, I have not finished writing the no work from home policy with the exception, so I'm asking that we move that to next month.
Objections?
We don't have a policy, I don't think we have a choice.
Ready to operate.
I'm very busy, and I'm not prepared to present something.
All right. Change ME, charging for ME services, excuse me, I read that wrong.
Okay, that would be me. So basically, I'm bringing a resolution to you to, and what's been happening over the last year is, I've been called out to cases and then there end up not being my cases, or, so I've been putting the work in. After like a couple of those, then I'll charge for a full case. But, what I'm hoping today is that, instead of doing that, I wrote in this resolution for, incidental duties, which would be if I go out on a case, find out it's not mine, I get paid $16 an hour instead of trying to like kind of, add these up and then get paid for a case. So that actually I think would save money, in the end. And so that is one of the changes, is to be paid, by the hour for, incidental duties. And then, also on here, when we first made the resolution, and changed the whole pay structure, in the last resolution, it said that we only got paid for cremations, if they weren't our case. We've always gotten paid for a cremation every time we've signed a cremation, and so I'd like that changed back to, getting $30 for every cremation that we sign. And that would have an impact of, a total of $1,875.73 on my budget, which I think there was money in there to, cover that. So that would be the impacted part.
Got a question.
Yes.
What kind of case would be not your case, or got somebody deceased or something?
Okay, so like, I guess the latest one I had was, I got called out to the ER. The nurses were kind of like doing their stuff, so I went right into the room, started my physical examination. The nurse came in, I asked her about, a big red mark that the guy had on his back. He was a very heavy guy, so, you know, I couldn't turn him or anything. She said, well, that's a hematoma, and I'm like, well, yeah, but where did it come from? And she's like, well, this guy was in a ATV accident in Sawyer County. Well, it's an accident in another county that got brought to this county, so that county is responsible for the case.
And it evidently got brought here because this was the closest
Right,
hospital.
the closest hospital, right.
Okay.
And so it was kind of a mix up there. And so I spent almost an hour out there. And so instead of adding all these incidences up, I've been over to nursing homes, and it was, a hospice case, and then I've been to hospice cases, been there a couple hours, driven quite a ways, and been there a couple hours, and they'll say, well, should I call hospice now? And so I'm like, well, we just went through all this stuff, and, all these questions, and I'm like, yes, and then, I wait there until hospice does get there, so they're not alone, but it would make more sense to pay me then by the hour than by the case. When I do a case, I do go to the investigation, but then after the investigation, I have to read through reports, I have to read through medical records. So like on my timesheet, it'll show the time that I'm there at the scene, the scene investigation, but it doesn't show all the time that I spent, just reviewing and trying to figure out, different things. Some cases are pretty simple. Case we just had, with the woman across the street here, a little more difficult. I have to do a lot more, digging and investigation on that and stuff, so it kinda equals out with the by the case, paying by the case. It'll all equal out in the end, where you have a simple case and then a harder case. But, I think instead of me trying to like say, okay, I've had about 3 of these non-case, and I guess, I always used to say if I sign the death certificate, but I guess I should say if I'm required to be there by law, then it's a case. I probably should have stated it that way, because there's sometimes I'm required to be there by law, but the doctor will jump in and sign the death certificate, which is no big deal. I still did my due diligence, did all the casework and stuff like that, and I still have a file on me, but, I think that will save money in the long run, if I'm paid by the hour for like incidental duties. So that's what's changed, on here, and then, just to be paid for each, signing of a death certificate, or of a cremation, because it's still an extra duty, no matter if it's your case or not.
Jim, you got it for you, what's your
$185.
Okay, so that's not changing?
No. Okay, so, I think if you look down, on the bottom there, the, 1,250, for, administrative duties and kind of being on call, that's, my, per diem per month. And then we have, if I use, one of my deputies, they get paid depending on what day it is, you know, for an on-call time. Last year, I was on call 340 days, out of the year, so I don't use them that often. But then, below, we would get $185 per case, and, $185 per case, and then $35 per cremation.
This says 30,
Yeah, 30 is, what did I say?
35.
Oh, I'm sorry, $30, per cremation. That would be the only thing that would really impact my budget, and, it would be, I would get paid for like 60 cremations.
The only issue
More.
I have with the cremations, there, one spot farther up, it says $30 an hour, and then down below it says $30 per cremation.
Oops.
So we got a little bit of a discrepancy there, is it gonna be per cremation or
Per
per hour?
cremation,
So that would have to be stricken to $30 an hour. Up above.
yes, my mistake. On line 18,
So we're looking at, do you know what your estimated fiscal impact is by putting these new?
yep, $1,875.73.
For the year?
Yep.
For all of this?
Yep.
Okay. So the only thing that's changing on this is the cremation fee and the $16 per hour if you go out on a case, and the on-call, or is the on-call already that set now?
The on-call's already set.
That's it, yeah.
So
Yeah.
the only thing that's changing here is the $30 per cremation, so I understand this, cause
Yeah.
we don't have the old one to compare to.
Right, oh yeah, I'm sorry.
And, no, that's okay, and the, cremation.
Yes,
So the $16 an
So
hour
now-
and the cremation.
Yep.
That's the only additional.
Cause now, Jim, we're still paying the $16 an hour now, but when she goes on 2 or 3 of the cases that wind up not being hers, she'll tabulate, and then charge for one full case or something like that.
right,
Okay.
Right.
So, the $16 an hour really is not a financial impact either, cause we're already.
right, and it makes more sense, cause it's showing what I'm actually doing instead of kind of, masking it there, because it never really did say in the last resolution that it said I could, charge $16 an hour for like, transport and conferences and training. And it didn't really have like this incidental kind of, thing that would happen. So I kinda wanted to put that in there, pay myself $16 an hour, instead of tabulating up, a bunch of these and then putting,
Nothing for a case.
case.
It's a lot more explanatory.
Yeah, if I can just.
Yeah, go
step
ahead,
in
you
really
can probably
quick.
explain it more than I
Yeah,
can.
no, that's fine. So I think, what she's saying is currently right now, she'll do a case maybe and it only takes 15 minutes, you don't charge that case, and then another case takes 15 minutes, don't charge that case, then this case takes a half
You
an
get 4
hour.
of them and
So then
you
you're
charge
charging
an
that, but now we're not being accurate on which case, we don't have any proof that you ever kind of did work on these other
Right,
cases.
another case, right.
Because there wasn't, cause you're only doing like every
Right.
so many
Where
cases
she
because
bills
of the
it by
time.
hour, it'll be a lot more explanatory.
Yeah, and from,
Right.
from a legality standpoint too, we probably want to have that time documented, knowing when.
And you're
When
good
you are
with this
working.
number of estimated of 1875 also?
Well, what it is, it would be 60 cremations at $30 an hour, which would be $1,800, and then the FICA would be like $13.77, and the workman's comp would be $61.96.
Which those number of cremation cases could change, I don't know.
It could change a little bit, but,
Could be less one year and more than that.
right, it could change, I would guess maybe about 10 one way or the other.
Have you
So-
got an average of them?
Usually about 120, and I think that's what I used, was the 120. So we usually have about 120 cremations in the county.
Per
so-
year.
Per year. So I didn't, I would have gotten paid for about 60 of them through, because they weren't a case. And then I didn't get, if they were a case, I didn't get paid for those other 60. You kinda understand what I'm saying?
So do we need to make that more explanatory in here? Cause I mean, if it's a case, then what you're saying is you're not going, and it turns into a cremation, you're not going to charge or collect for the cremation. Am I understanding you right?
That's how it is right now, it's always been, no matter what, every time you sign your name on a cremation, you get paid $30.
Okay,
It's always been that way, and then, whenever, I think it was in the beginning of 2023, in the beginning of 2023, there was, a resolution made, and it had the pay schedule on it, but it said on there, which I didn't, I guess, notice right away, but it said on there, if I had a case, I got paid that $185. And if that case turned into a cremation, I wouldn't get paid the $30.
that's what you're proposing it now.
That's how it was written in
Okay.
2022.
What she's proposing
Proposing now is that every time I sign a cremation, I get $30.
She gets paid for it.
Right.
Okay, so either I wasn't listening very well or something, is there 60 cremations or 120?
There's about 120
So
cremations.
wouldn't that be
a-
$3,600
Okay,
after
hang on.
fiscal?
There's about 120 cremations a year, but because she's signing some that she's not getting paid for cases, she's already getting the $30 for signing that cremation order. The 60 that she's looking to add to this are ones that are actually in a case of hers, and she is not getting paid for that cremation.
Thank you.
Is that, am I
You're perfect,
correct
yes.
there?
Okay, so you're
Sometimes,
getting,
sometimes my mind kind of.
you're getting it for some, but yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not getting it for all.
Okay, alright, now that's better for me, I got that for.
The ratio's about 80-20 though, isn't it? Between conventional and cremations.
I would say it's even,
Very good, good.
maybe 10,
When I was on that
now.
committee, it was about 80-20 at that time.
It's probably 90-10 now. Yeah, very,
Quite a
very
difference.
few burials.
So we need to strike that.
I did, I changed it.
$30 per cremation.
I crossed out the per hour and put cremation. I mean, it'll have to be rewritten, but
Right. Okay. As long as we got that in there, but that should be in the motion. Whoever makes it.
you stated what? Okay. I have a motion on the floor
Then,
this will,
sorry,
No, that's all right.
and that's in your budget, you said?
Yeah, there's plenty there for it.
Sorry.
so that being said, Ashley, to forward to the board, would you consider her, if it's in her budget,
It's in her budget, but it's a
still a
change to the
financial
pay
issue.
structure,
Yeah.
so I would say finance and then board.
okay.
Yeah, for changes.
To finance and then we'll vote. Okay, is there a second? Motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Seconded,
Should be in here a couple more times, yeah, buddy.
seconded by Jonathan Undershoots, any further questions or comments?
The only thing I'll say is, when it goes to finance, maybe bring your hold on, so it's probably more clear. for
Okay,
reference.
I will do that.
In 2021.
Was it from 2021? Oh,
Was it
no, there was another one in
This one.
twenty
There's gotta be
twenty-three,
another one.
or 2023-4.
Oh, okay, so it's, okay.
Yeah.
This would be a dash now, right, or no?
It would be 23-4, was the old one.
Okay.
Or those accounted for, like that.
Is there any further questions or comments on the motion on the floor? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
You too. I still gotta get hold of you one of these days. I still have to make that box, but I just haven't had any time. Okay, thank you.
Wage increase for Parks and Forestry LGE.
Yeah, so I'll discuss on behalf of forestry, I told them I would. So, we have 2 returning interns coming back in the forestry department. One is coming back for their 3rd year, forestry's asking to put that one at 15 an hour. And one is coming back for their 2nd year, asking to put them at 14 an hour. They work 40-hour weeks. They are still recruiting for a 3rd summer worker who would start at $12.50. It will not require any additional budget money. All of it is in their budget line under the interns. 14.
Is that $1 an hour for both of them, is it?
It's $1.50 is what he is asking for. So it's currently in the budget.
Our ordinance says returning LTEs are
I don't think we have, it's not in an ordinance or in a formal policy, which is why it's brought to the committee.
Okay.
It's actually,
Yep.
they got $1 and then one got 50 cents because they maxed them at
Yeah,
15.
50.
That's what Jared is asking, and I did ask for a little bit more clarification on that. So, they do 600 hours is what's in their budget, so right now they have it budgeted for 600 hours for 3 people. One at $12.50, one at $13.50, one at $14.50. Because of how the weeks fall with the summer, they usually work the last week of May through the end of August. It's less than 600 hours. The ones last year, one worked 600, one worked 440, and one worked like 560. So on average, it was way less than that 600. So all of the money is in that budget line. In talking to Jamie, it is in there, even if we did do the 14.15 and then the one at 12.50. So he is asking, yes, for $1.50 over that dollar.
I thought we just had this discussion and there was
So one's
something
gonna go,
said.
the one's gonna go, what, 14?
One would go to 14, who's in the 2nd year, and a 3rd year to 15. We do not have any formal policies on this, which is a goal for next year. Get something more in place for these interns.
Are there any other insurance besides forestry and, there?
Not at this time, but I think maintenance, sorry, I'm looking at, yes, right, maintenance
3.
does do 3.
What are their annual raises?
It would be the
Same.
same.
$1 an hour?
So it would be $1, and then it caps out at the $15.
$1 and it caps at 15. So I think we should just see this in all, this is the reason why I wanted to.
Can I add to that? So I talked to Jared about that, and he said that it's difficult competing with the city. So like, it seems like a lot of kids go to the city because they pay more.
It's the same duties.
Right, so it's the same kind of things, except you don't have to drive across the county to Murphy and then to Josie or whatever. You're doing parks work
See, I
over the
just
city.
the opposite about it.
fun, you know, kids
Yeah,
are.
I'm getting paid $15 an hour or whatever to go drive out to work.
Windshield,
Be a problem.
Yeah, I don't have to mow lawn today for
City
an hour.
kids
Yeah.
ain't got this figured out, do
They gotta drive 10 minutes and boom, they're mowing lawn again now.
What is the city?
Shot by the Dairy Queen on the way.
Anyways, what was your recommendation for law?
We'll keep the same for everybody. I mean, that's a legitimate point that you're competing.
So maybe that's why we did the one that we did for, fair was maxing out. And we
Yeah.
did like 50 cents an hour, that's
Right.
so, okay.
Yeah, that was because it was max.
But what's the $1.50 difference? So,
Just asking for more than
but everybody else is doing that. You know what we just came to?
yes, because they only asked for $1.
I think it needs.
No, the fair is a little different too, in the fact that, are they truly interns? Cause they stay on payroll, I think, all year. These people would be rehired, not that that makes a difference in what their wage should be, but I do think next year, it's too late in the ballgame to do it for this year, but that'll probably be something that we'll have to look at next year, is intern wages in general. Cause I think we have had this policy of $12.50 in place for a while, starting $12.50 and then $1 each year. It's been quite a few years. Now we just have the position posted.
I know it was very hard for us to get three people last year at the dollar amount.
Remember that, and forestry is struggling too.
The 3 people still coming back? Or you just hire new every year? Or
We'll see who we get, I guess.
And they still
And
out?
what's your starting here?
Well,
I thought it was 13. I thought that's what it was last year, I thought.
I can't find any policies and procedures or ordinances or anything that we've had on this, which is why we're.
Sounds like maybe it's not so much the raise per year, as what we start them at the first year. Could be, I mean, in all reality, if we're getting hired out by other outfits and
Yeah.
not getting anybody to
Well,
apply.
I know.
Basic, Jim, you could go start at McDonald's for, I think, 17.
I think you're probably not getting them all 4 years of high school either, because
I know the one girl that we hired last year, she was a great worker, but she left to go work for Barefoot Painters because she got, I don't know, quite a bit more.
Probably 20, maybe,
Yep.
who knows?
Yep.
I didn't realize it was that low.
Well, it sounds like Gary's gonna have the same problem.
I know. And he said they were starting at 13 and we had a hard time getting people.
Well, yeah, but honest, depends on when you start advertising to get these people to go first, come first served, you know. This
Well-
may be that, but then.
Oh,
we
this was
start
a place
earlier.
before I was here.
But in general, I do know, I've heard many times, the city is on paying this.
Problem is, by the time we address this next month, Gary's gonna wanna have a couple of his already hired on.
Yeah, that's it. That's the way to do it.
And it's not on the agenda, so we can't even
Right,
address
so
that
I
right
guess
now.
put a hand or something, we'll do this and
Better
that.
take that whole fix it.
So we're waiting. We got this
And all it's
bill.
on here is the wage increase, not starting wage.
Yeah.
So he wants to start him at what again, say that one more time for the motion?
A third year at 15 and a second year at 14. And then the third summer person, brand new at 12.50. So 12.50, 15.
These two are returning.
Yeah, the 2 returning at 15
That's why they're getting the
and 14.
So he's probably already fair. That's what,
Oh,
We did have,
that's what I'm getting from this.
that's pretty low.
we did have the job posting out for forestry already for a month and a half, and we just had to re-extend it for a couple more months because we don't have a third person.
Cause his first year's a little So we need to address the first year probably, whoever's on personnel next, we need to address that in the back here. That's gonna include finance, so.
Position, when we get $15 an hour.
You make a motion, second.
I did talk to Jamie really quick about this too, about talking if it had to go on further to finance or county board, and since it is in his budget and on the same line, she was fine if you guys are okay with it, just approving it here. Not forwarding it.
I'll make a motion, raise the pay $1 an hour per year, or per year.
A motion on the floor to raise the pay $1 an hour, not the $1.50 that was proposed for the two returning employees for forestry department. We have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Meyer. Is there any further questions or comments? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
You guys are fine with it, not going any further? Finances.
Yeah, I don't think it's too bad.
Okay.
Which he should have something in his budget already for interns, they should be hired.
Which he did.
I'm sure he did,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he did. It's discussed all the time with the training and free. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, pair 1, pair C. Motion's been made, is there a second? Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Feld?
Yes.
Mr. Kalin?
Yeah.
Mr. Undershoot?
Yes.
And yes. We're now going into closed session, review of performance improvement plan relating to employee job performance pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, pair 1, pair C, for considering employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data of any public employee for which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. We are now in closed session. I would entertain a motion to go in closed session.
So move.
Motion's made and seconded. Mr. Undershoot.
Yes.
Mr. Kalin. Mr. Meyer.
Yes.
Mr. Stout.
Yes.
And yes, we are now going into closed session, FMLA or other medical leave request, Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, pair 1, pair C, for considering employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. We are now in closed session.
Done. I'm gonna have to take some time to set up after that.
Yeah, I'll be there in a jiffy.
Closed session.
I'll make a motion to approve the unpaid FMLA 314-514-2024.
Unpaid time.
Unpaid time off. Unpaid time off.
Motion's been made by Mr. Meyer, second by Mr. Stone. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, just so you know quickly, I'm going to be pulling out of here in a short, I have another obligation, so I'm going to the next closed session, you'll know why. Or do you want me to just leave now?
Would you like to recess until you come back, or?
I don't know how long it's gonna be.
Okay. Then,
I can park now.
pretty because you're not supposed to leave until the closed
That's,
session.
that's perfectly fine, that's why I asked no.
Oh,
Another obligation. Alright.
They are.
Take your time, go. Hurry up back.
Last month.
I would, entertain a motion to move into closed session. Arguable.
Slash.
Mr. Undershoot.
Yes.
Mr. Meyer.
Yes.
Mr. Stout.
Yes.
And yes, we are now going into closed session, pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, para 1, para F, for considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or discipline data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where para B applies, which if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon, lost my line, upon the, what's that? I'm skipping, I'm sorry. Reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations to witness investigation of report received through Lighthouse Services. We are now in closed session. Is there a motion out of the closed session?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to do back to events. Nothing private,
No further action.
no private action.
Motion's made, is there a second? Is there a second? The motion that Mr. Meyer made, second by Mr. Stout. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Motion's made, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stout. Mr. Meyer.
Yes.
Mr. Undershoots. Mr. Cagle.
Yes.
And yes, we're now going into closed session. Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, para 1, para G, conferring with legal counsel for governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body which, with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved, or, I lost myself again there, likely to become involved. We are now in closed session. Oh, you're talking?
Got all of them?
No, it's Bob's statement. This time I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's made, is there a second? All in favor for adjournment, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned.